I want to welcome you to the Introduction to LOTOJA for Amateur Radio Operators. This is part one. Hopefully there'll be just a couple of parts. First of all, thank you for your willingness to help us with LOTOJA. It is quite an event, and it takes a lot of amateur radio operators and their spouses or helpers to make this a successful event. First of all, LOTOJA is a bicycle race that goes from Logan, Utah to Jackson, Wyoming. That's about 206 miles on a bike. It's the longest single-day bike race in North America that's sanctioned by the United States Cycling Federation, and it attracts over 1,000 cyclists and their support families from across the country. I was told this year for 2008 that there were 2,000 to 3,000 cyclists that would have wanted to register, but they can only accommodate a few more than 1,000 cyclists. So pretty impressive. Amateur radio has been involved with LOTOJA since about 1991. That's the first year I participated, and I've helped ever since then. Back then there were about 12 radio operators and I believe less than 150 cyclists. And that was my first real major event. I was just newly licensed then. Today there's around 100 communication volunteers coordinated by the Bridgerland Amateur Radio Club, HAMS from Montpelier as part of the Bears group over there, the Star Valley, Wyoming ham group, and the Jackson Hole amateur radio group there, known as TRAC. They all help us with this event, as do other amateurs from other clubs throughout the state of Utah that come and volunteer their time. Now, they're not all of the 100 are ham. Some of them are the spouses or a teenage or adult child of a ham radio operator, but we have many husband and wife amateur that are both licensed, as well as families that are licensed that participate, and it makes it for a fun, enjoyable time. And we appreciate, again, everyone who helps us make this possible. I believe, and many agree with me, that LOTOJA is about the best communications exercise you will ever find. You know, in Utah we haven't had a lot of disasters. We've had a few small ones, and we've participated in quite a few emergency communication exercises. But there is nothing like LOTOJA. There is more traffic passed by amateur radio operators in LOTOJA than any other event I have ever participated with. It pretty much trumps any other types of communication event 2 to 1, guaranteed. LOTOJA will test your radio equipment to the max. If your radio has problems, it will make itself known during LOTOJA, I can guarantee you, because you will be using it for at least 10 hours. Okay, communications that we use for LOTOJA. The primarily communications are VHF on a 2-meter radio, but we also use UHF frequencies through repeater links and other things. We use APRS, that's the automatic packet reporting system, for tracking of vehicles and also for simple messaging. Net control stations, you'll learn about those. There'll be 4 of them throughout the event. They use voice over IP or the internet connected together to communicate with each other because we're in different valleys. We'll use the telephone, primarily the cell phone, to make calls to each other and also to call support vehicles for these riders if we need to get a hold of them. And we also use a database on the internet that we custom built that we use to track track information. If we're looking for a support vehicle or a rider, we want to track it, then all the net control stations see it, and it doesn't get lost if people change over at net control. So those are the primary things we use. Most of you will be using VHF, and if you have an APRS system or tracker, the APRS. What you will need. Most important, you'll need transportation. Unless you're riding with a race official from Logan to Jackson or the race director, you'll need transportation to and from your position, and you'll need to be able to get to the starting line. You need a 2-meter radio. We prefer a mobile. There are some mountainous terrains where getting into repeaters is a little bit difficult. However, we have found that if you have a handheld with 5 watts of power and an external quarter wave or 5/8 inch antenna on your vehicle, usually a mag mount, that works very, very well for the large majority of the race. So just don't go out and buy a mobile just to participate in LOTOJA. You'll need extra batteries or some external power for your radio. Usually you'll have a cigarette lighter adapter or a battery or something, because it'll be going for a long, long time, especially if you're transmitting quite a bit. And handhelds work best for the feed zones. You'll be out and about on your feet for most of that, and other positions that, when you're not in the mountainous terrain. So if you got a position at a strategic location or at a feed zone, a handheld will work. I believe all the handhelds, probably except for the one in Strawberry Canyon and the one in Snake River Canyon, you can get into the repeaters with a handheld, and you may from those as well. Optional equipment, an APRS tracker. If you have one, that's a device, a radio connected to a GPS and a TNC that will broadcast your location. This is primarily used for mobile vehicles, and we may provide you with one. We usually have a bunch of people that'll bring trackers, and we'll put them in vehicles. But if you have one, that's great. If you're considering getting one, might be a good time. There's some kits that are about $39 or so. You'll need some sort of transmitter to connect to it. For mobile stations, a second handheld or another mobile radio to monitor the simplest frequency we use for car-to-car communications is good to have. It is not necessary. So if you have a couple of handhelds, or if you have a dual band, where you can monitor a couple of frequencies, that is good. I've usually carried a scanner with me sometimes so I can monitor a couple different frequencies. If people are calling on, that works as well. A cell phone is a good thing to have. So if you need to, you can call, especially if you're supporting a rider and they've broken down and we need to get their support vehicle back. You can call their support vehicle directly, get their phone number from the rider, or call Net Control and get that. We'll have a list of those stations at the Net Control, or we'll have a list of those support vehicles at Net Control locations. So we'll have a list of those phone numbers. All right, here is the route. Let me show you the route for this. Okay, we're going to start in Logan, and here you can see this is Highway 91 that goes up into Preston. You'll notice that there's two colors here. The blue is how the vehicles that belong to the cyclists. They're their own support vehicles, not us hams that are following along in the race. They are asked to take this blue route. Okay. Now, cyclists will take the red route. You'll notice we'll start in Logan. We'll go down 2nd North to 10th West out by Airport Road through Benson, and we'll wiggle around some backcountry and come into Preston to the first feed zone. You can see the first feed zone is here. Going to change my pen color to a color that you can actually see. How's that? Okay. Then we'll go up into where by Riverdale is, and then we'll go up Immigration Canyon, or Mink Creek as they call it. We'll climb up to the summit there to Feed Zone 2, which is a neutral feed zone. We'll learn about that in Part 2. We'll drop down into Montpelier, and that's the 3rd feed zone is in Montpelier. Then we'll climb up this canyon to Geneva Summit. We'll drop down into the Geneva area, and we'll start climbing Salt River Pass to the summit of Salt River, where King and Queen of the Mountain are. And then we'll head on into Afton and Star Valley, Wyoming. You can see Thane here, Etna. We'll hit Alpine, and then we'll enter Snake River Canyon. There's a feed zone here. I missed the 2 feed zones that were here. There's one here in Afton, and there's one here in Alpine. And then there's a feed zone in the canyon that's another neutral feed. And then we'll wind up into Jackson, and we will end up in Teton Village. Now, the route has changed a little bit here from last year, if you participated last year. But that's basically the route. You can see the blue route, the cars. We're going to send the support vehicles for those cyclists up to Soda Springs and back down into Montpelier. Then we're going to send them south here, and this is the first time they'll really have a chance to be on the same road as the riders. They are really not allowed to follow their riders unless we send them back, because they're way behind in the race. So they're required to go from feed zone to feed zone. You'll notice there's a couple, this feed zone, which is a neutral feed, they will not be at, and nor will they be. They'll be able to go by here, but they're not supposed to stop at this feed zone in Snake River Canyon. So that's basically the route. You'll get a copy of this map. This is a good map to have. All right, communication positions. These are the places where we have amateur radio operators located. We have Net Control. There'll be 4 Net Control stations. There'll be one covering the Logan and Preston area, or Cache Valley. There'll be one in Montpelier that will cover that valley. Star Valley, we'll have one there in Star Valley, and then one up in Jackson. We'll be using 6 or 7 repeaters, and 8 or 9 total frequencies with simplex. We have neutral support vehicles. These are vehicles that follow along behind groups of riders, and they're ham radio operators, and they usually carry wheels. Most of them will carry wheels, which are basically rims with tubes and tires on them ready to go if a rider has a flat. We have feed zones. There's 7 of those. Those are strategic locations, very critical points, and there's a lot of communication that flows in and out of feed zones. And some of them are busier than others, especially Preston and Montpelier. That's where the busiest ones are. We'll have some hams that will ride in vehicles of the race officials and race director, and they help us provide communications to and from those officials. Those are exciting locations to be in. We'll have some strategic locations, and those vary from year to year, but they may be at corners or at in canyons or places that we need to put some communications or some eyes to watch out for problems or to be there to help us communicate. We'll have communications at both the starting and finish line. Those are strategic points, and those of you who will be going mobile there'll be a ham radio coordinator at the starting line to make sure you're in the right location and that you roll out at a certain time. We'll have start times that start as early as 6 a.m. and they'll go for at least 90 minutes, about 3 to 5 minutes apart. So we'll be rolling out 26 different groups of riders throughout the morning. And then there's a group a position and group of folks that take care of repeaters and communications deployment. They will put a couple portable repeaters up and links and systems, and these folks go up the mountain, take a portable repeater to put it there for us to use, and then they hang out and camp overnight. So a lot of positions you can see and a lot of logistics. We'll also deploy some digipeaters throughout the race. Commitment. If you're in a mobile position that starts in Logan and ends in Jackson, your commitment's going to be from about 5:30 a.m. until 8 p.m. on the race day. Feed zones and other position commitments, those vary depending on when they're going to be open, but they vary between 2 and 6 hours, more likely around 4 to 6. And it really depends on where you'll be, and more information will be given to you about those. There's also a training meeting that we hold before the event, and that's the main things that you need to be aware of those commitments. Now, some of you may be only available for a certain time of the day and need to come back home. Hopefully you've communicated that with us, and we'll make exceptions for those things, but just realize we're going to need you, and it depends on the weather, and it depends on the day and what's happening with the event. The start and finish are known, but what happens in between is anybody's guess, and there are no 2 races are the same. Some years there's no accidents, other years we can't keep up with them. We've had every kind of weather, from wind, rain, snow, sleet, hail, sunshine, and sometimes we've had all of those on the same day. All right, what we do. The key thing we do is provide communications to assist the cyclists, their families, and support vehicles to have a safe and enjoyable event. Those who have participated in LOTOJA before and have go out to eat at the various restaurants in Jackson afterwards always have cyclists come up to us and thank us for what we do. And in one year when we had freezing weather in the Immigration Canyon, we've had amateurs come up to it, or cyclists come up to us and tell us that we saved their lives, literally. And that's another story. The mobile vehicles will be following packs of riders, and we'll carry spare bicycle tires. Those are rims and tires that are ready to go. We help riders and support vehicles hook up with each other. That's a big thing. Sometimes they don't know where each other are. They miss each other at the feed zones. And so we work to try to help those folks hook up. And we do the best we can. We're really here for those participants, and that's what we enjoy doing, is helping them have a fun event. We are the eyes and ears of the race. Because we are out there on the racetrack, race course, we will see pretty much everything, or people will tell us about what's going on, and so we provide the eyes and the ears, and if we have any issues or see anything, we report that, and we work with folks to make sure it's a safe event. One of the big things that we do, besides the communications, is we provide neutral wheel support to cyclists. that means we carry spare wheels, tires, and tubes on a rim. The reason we do that is when LOTOJA first started, us amateurs hopped in with mechanics and others that provided that service, and we soon realized that it wasn't real easy for us to put our mobile radios in and hook them up and throw an antenna on somebody else's vehicle. We already had them installed in our vehicles. So after a few years of doing LOTOJA, we suggested to the race organizer that we could hand out tires and do those basic things, and EMTs and mechanics could either hop in with us, or we could, because of some of the talents of the amateur radio operators, we could do that. So we do that. And so one of the things we do is carry tires. And when somebody gets a flat, we hand out a tire, collect their flat, record some information, and then at the end of the race, we turn all that in. So not only does it provide a great service, but it also keeps extra vehicles off the road when we can, and that is a key to the safety of this event, is keeping the minimum amount of vehicles following riders. All right. Here's the race route again. I wanted to talk to you a little bit just about where we'll have repeaters. We'll use the Logan repeater in here, and we may use the Sheriff's repeater, which is the 6.4. There's a repeater up here in Grace, Idaho that's called the 8.0. That's where a lot of the communications will happen from here up to here. Okay, so the 8.0 repeater will be critical for that. Then we'll come into and use the Montpelier repeater through communications here. There'll be a repeater right here at Salt River Pass, and that will cover, kind of down into here until you hit the Narrows. That's Salt River. We will actually put the portable repeater up on Black Mountain. That's the 14541, and that'll give us communication coverage kind of through here. That's a great location, and it may end up being linked to this other repeater. I don't know at this time. And then at the end, we'll use the Snow King repeater, which will basically cover these areas through here. So that's how the repeaters will work for the race, and we'll have a map that'll show that for you. Just one thing about feed zones: they are very busy locations, and if you are a mobile station, as you approach a feed zone, you'll want to be looking all the way around you to determine where the cyclists are, and go very slow, because there'll be tons of spectators and folks there. They're really congested. You should be directed to follow right through the riders. You shouldn't have to take any detours, and you should be able to follow this red path the entire way. Okay, so that's again looking at the race map. All right, that's the end of part 1. I hope that's been helpful to you. Part 2 will cover specific assignments, and especially mobile and feed zone stations and strategic locations, and kind of what you need to be aware of. We'll also look at what you should be prepared to bring as far as non-communication equipment. Okay, thank you.